That's it really is both, and I think it depends somewhat on the organization and what you're doing with an organization. I think small organizations where you have cybersecurity professionals, they probably need to focus more on the vulnerabilities to make sure they're not compromised. Bigger organizations where there are directed campaigns against them, maybe even personnel within that organization, it's probably just as important, if not more so, to focus on those types of threats that are commonplace or being engaged at that point in time. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting for me, and because I go to a lot of the different websites. There's Dark Reading and SANS and different places you can find a lot of information. But what I found useful for me, and probably a lot of people won't agree with this, is I use LinkedIn a lot. I think I've established a user base that I've known in this industry for a long time. So the people that post things are generally relevant pieces of information, whether it's links or things that are going on with those companies. And I find that to be one of the most valuable sources of information. I know a lot of people complain that LinkedIn can be a little bit like Facebook, but I think if you're adding the right people with the same mindset, you actually get a very good and even diverse set of information around the industry. I think on-site events like these are excellent, and not even just we're here today, and for me, I learned something new because you come to these events and you come in with your information and things that you're used to, but then there's presenters that bring additional information. So, for example, today we had someone talking about the smart locks or secure locks, and one of these locks is actually something I just put in my home, and it really opens your mind to a lot of new things because you're hearing different people come from different areas. Yeah, so I actually, even talking today here, I talked a little bit about how I was originally started out in college thinking I was going to do video game development, and got exposed to cybersecurity and actually doing hacks, and was really fascinated by it, and it changed my overall really life, because I was going down one path to get into video game development. I started going into cybersecurity even really early on in the industry, and I'm really happy I did it because it allowed me to really grow at a time when cybersecurity was small, grow with this industry and see things, ranging from back in the day where it was just, simple kind of exploits that compromised something small to, now we're talking about nation state types of attacks and attacks on industrial control systems and things that really matter to everyone in everyday life. I believe in continuously learning. So I always, I started out as a researcher, writing signatures for Snort, and I was then a developer where I was programming security tools, writing in C. I had I was very good with people and being able to have intelligent conversations. So I moved from just sitting at a desk and working as an architect. It's hard to say where I'm going to go next. I've enjoyed being in the architect role for a while. I've enjoyed working with really all the different kind of security technologies, and I guess maybe one day I'd like to be CTO of a company and driving kind of innovation and something new within products and really have more of a leadership role in what we're bringing to market. Well, I have two. So I guess, as I mentioned, when I started out, I was a security researcher, and for me, I was kind of writing signatures, looking at vulnerabilities, and I started learning a lot more about hacking and how they were breaching them, and I ended up, I have about 4 published 0 days, and I think that it got me a lot of attention. So it was fun to get the attention, but it was it's not so much I needed the attention, but when you're interacting with peers and people that you look up to because they've been writing these 0-day vulnerabilities, and then you find one and you publish one and everyone gets excited. I think that was a lot of fun. Another kind of weird kind of achievement, interesting thing was I was working for Solera Networks, and it had been purchased by Blue Coat, and I was reporting directly to the CTO at that time. And during this time, the CTO was so busy with the merger that they basically had to leave me alone. And he left me alone not because he had to, because he was so busy. And I had to kind of figure out what I could do during that time that would be still useful for the company. And I'd been Splunk, a SIM kind of log aggregator, had becoming more and more popular, and I wanted to do some work with Splunk and show how our product could integrate. So I built what I thought was going to be a proof of concept, and finally had a chance to demo it to the CTO, who brought me into the rest of the executives actually and had me demonstrate what I had built. And the funny thing was, I thought this would be something I would write and hand off to engineering or another team that would maintain it, but I actually became the Splunk guru for Blue Coat. So I ended up writing 5 or 6 Splunk applications for Blue Coat. I was kind of the Splunk champion that brought Splunk into Blue Coat, using it as the technology itself. So it was really cool to do something that I just thought was cool, and then to get higher level management thinking this was amazing, and becoming the leader and kind of the champion around that technology in the company. That's I think depending on which side you're on, you're going to have a different answer. But like I said, for me, those kind of 0-day achievements, being able to break into things, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be the team or the person that's actually breaking things. And now, obviously, you need defense as well. But for me, it's the red team exercises.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a politically incorrect answer. People are stupid. It's I'm not just people are stupid. So the bad guys have become really smart, and I think there's even a inherent instinct to people to be curious. So when the bad guy's smart and they craft a very good email that maybe says something that's very relevant to you, it's information that's to you, and it's something that you want to know. So maybe it looks like it's coming from your boss, and it talks about what it's going to take you to get promoted. It's your natural instinct to be curious, and I think sometimes the curiosity outweighs the kind of the thought that you shouldn't be clicking this link. And I say people are stupid, but it's just inherent to us to click on things or to look at things that we're interested in, and we don't give it enough thought sometimes about let me look at the headers of this email and see where it came from, or should I really be going in this domain that ends in XYZ? And people just need to slow down sometimes and think about it, and I think we'd probably be better off in the social engineering department.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As we just talked about people and how they can be a weak link, I think education is ongoing. If we're going to pick 5 things, it's not just tools, right? We could name off what critical tools are, but I think number one is education, because if people are clicking things that they shouldn't be, if they're bringing in devices from home that have been unsecured and they're plugging it into a local network, people really can be the weakest link in it. So that's maybe number one. Now, the other thing is when we start thinking about tools, and I know the term defense in depth is kind of dead at this point. People don't like to use it, but I think our tools itself need to be integrated. So that's when we're purchasing technologies and different tools that we like to use. These tools can't just run independently in silos. They have to be able to integrate. And there are some separate products now. If we look at companies like Phantom or Demisto, they're really building products that work with separate APIs and integrate all these tools. So that's really key as well, is to take these products that each have valuable information, be able to share that information between the products, and then take respective actions on those products. So integration of products is key as well. I think from the attack vector standpoints, when you see things over a network can be a little bit difficult to understand. If I'm sending certain packets, I can send them in certain orders that when they arrive at an endpoint, they're actually different than maybe what you see on the network. So the endpoint really is like a holy grail, where what lands on the endpoint's files that get there, they may have come over an encrypted channel, but by the time they get on the endpoint, you really have the holy grail of what's coming in on the attack vector, right? So I think having a really good, strong endpoint technology, understanding everything that's going on there. And when I talk about endpoint technology, it's really from 2. So maybe there's 2 parts to this. Maybe this is 3 and 4 right here, where you need endpoint protection, things that are not even just antivirus, but these ones that are doing dynamic analysis, static analysis on the stuff that's landing there to do the prevention. Now, the reality is, and this is never going to change, is there's going to be a compromise. Whether you have the best technologies in place, whether people are educated, things will still be compromised. So you need to have tools on those endpoints that are really recording everything that's going on, being able to replay that information, understand the attack, so then you can formulate a better defense in the future. It's always going to be a cat and mouse game. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I don't know, core technology. I guess for number 5, we'll just say firewall, because I think without a firewall, you've just kind of exposed everything. There's a lot of tools, networking tools that are key. We could say proxy, IDS, but I think firewalls is kind of a staple of a tool that you have to kind of just stop the attacks or prevent things from happening in the first place. I think don't ever stop learning. That in this industry, things change so fast. Things change so fast. The funny thing is, things will change, but then we adapt to that, and then things circle back again, and it's the same things we dealt with before. Things that are happening in IoT now, even though because that's a new technology, were attacks that we saw 15 years ago. So, but there are new things, and I think, in this industry, you really have to stay abreast with what's going on, keep educating yourself, and always put out your best defenses.
Okay, very good advice. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
The questions.